She did,
oh, sorry.
Alleiah
Monet. It's me. Hi, guys.
We are here for our Friday Night Live.
Yes.
Listening to a little music in the background.
It's collaboratory music. Single just dropped today. It's called The Road. So go check it out on all music platforms.
For sure. Giving people a little time to pop on. Hope you all are having a wonderful and blessed Juneteenth. Just in case you didn't know, Trump did not come up with this. It's a whole thing beforehand. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
We're not talking about him.
We're not going to talk about him.
He said it's not for him.
So hopefully you have been buying black, supporting black, checking us out, because you know we're black.
Blackity black black.
Blackity black black. Every day, every month, every year. Some things ain't gonna never change.
Every hour on hour.
For sure. While we're waiting, I'll also mention our very black businesses, aboutfacecollaborative.com.
Yes.
You can check it out for ARISE Devotional Journal, tshirts, apparel, a SISTAH event is coming up, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. SISTAH, blogs, all kind of things going on, and then we also have.
So, have you guys seen my new post today or what? Like, oh my gosh. My first book is available for pre-order.
Yay!
Monet's Truth. There you go, now you can see it better. Yes, you can pre-order your copy now. This a 28-day devotional. There's so much wisdom and encouragement inside. If you are just looking for new vision, if you need encouragement and faith, if you want to know what your calling is, this devotional is for you. So if you don't already follow me or friends with me on what's it called?
Social media?
Yeah. I really had like a brain fart right there. But yes, follow me at Alleiah Monet or add me on Facebook at Alleiah Monet. Cash App me. The details are all in my last post, so you should definitely pre-order now.
You should definitely get it. I got a little sneak peek of it, and it's phenomenal. I'm already like putting my requests for my copy, my autograph copy, because you know she famous and stuff. So yes, so be sure to check out her website, pre-order, Cash App her, tell your friends, all of that good stuff.
Yes.
So we will go ahead and get started. Today, we are talking about something that may or may not be a challenge for some people. It's so crazy how this topic even came up. Like, you know, week to week, things will be going on, and we will, you know, kind of be like, do we want to talk about this next week? Or try to with the pencil. I don't know. We're trying to figure out, for some reason, on our Facebook Live, it does not always let us see our comments, and we're trying to figure out why it's being weird in doing that. So that's what Alleiah is doing now. So if you're on, I know. So if you're on Facebook, please comment, and then we'll like scroll up. So yeah, so things will, you know, life will happen, things will happen, and we'll be like, let's talk about that on Friday. So this particular topic came up because I was reading the other day, and I was reading in James 1, and I won't read the whole thing to you. I'll just read the 2 verses that really stood out to me. So James 1 verse 3 says, and this is the King James Version, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. And then verse 6 says, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. And then it goes on to say, For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, tossed with the wind. It's like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind, and tossed. And for some reason, if you're like me, you know, you've read that verse, or there are other verses that you read, and depending on what's going on in your life, it just has a new and different meaning. And for some reason, this week, when I read this verse, I don't know why, but the trying of your faith, and then the part about asking in faith with nothing wavering, it like just didn't mesh up with me for some reason. I was like, okay, so my faith is being tried, but I have to be unwavering in my faith. That doesn't, like, just literally was not making sense to me.
Right.
And so I took some time. I like was, you know, writing out a note, and I had some thoughts about it. But before I get into my thoughts about it, we wanted to talk a little bit about like what that even looks like. What does your faith being tested look like? What does it look like when you have unwavering faith? So I just wanted to give you a little intro. See if Alleiah has anything she wants to share, and we'll go at it. If you have thoughts, please comment. Feel free to share this live with others, and we look forward to hearing from you throughout this.
Yeah, so what does your faith being tested look like? I think that's a great question. For me, my faith being tested is it's just those moments where you're faced to make a decision, but you kind of don't know like which direction to go. And it's kind of in those moments where it's like, you know the answer, but in your mind or in your heart, it's conflicting with what you really want to do, which of course is oftentimes what the Spirit is guiding you to do. And you go back and forth in your mind about how to make the right decision. And I believe it's in those moments when your faith is truly being tested, when the right thing to do is presented to you, but now you're battling whether if you want to do that thing, even though you know it's right, but you're like, ooh, but you know, you think of all the benefits from doing what is wrong, and it causes you to think, or you come up with excuses, or you find justifications for it. So now you're confused. And I think it's in I think it's in those moments when we really need to acknowledge God and say, okay, like, what's the direct answer, and be willing to accept whatever it is and go His way. Because God is not an author of confusion. And so He will always lead you to peace. He will never lead you into a conflicting situation or lead you into a direction where you have to compromise on your faith or on your values. So I think it's in those moments where you're presented with a challenge, something that may go against your values. That's when your faith is being tested, because now it's like, okay, are you going to choose the right way, or are you going to go the other direction? So, and I've had plenty of moments of my faith being tested. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was just thinking that as you were talking, you know, one thing I love and appreciate about the Bible is it's always like intertwined and connected. And so when I'm thinking about faith, we think about in Hebrews, right? Hebrews 11. Now faith is. So faith is the substance of things hoped for, right? The evidence of things not yet seen. So one thing I do sometimes in my Bible study is I'll like literally input other words or scripture into place. So if we're saying the trying of your faith, so the trying of this substance, the trying of this evidence, what does that look like? So if you're believing God for healing, then your belief in that healing, that's the substance and the evidence. And that is going to be tested. Like, do you really believe that you're going to be healed? Do you really believe that you're going to be the head and not the tail, or, you know, prosperous in this area, or, you know, your family member is going to be saved? Like, whatever your thing is, whatever this substance of the thing hope for, this evidence, like that is going to be tried and tested. And so, like Alleiah was saying, I have all kind of examples of when, you know, my faith in something has been tried, and I have to make a determination whether or not I'm going to, in that trial, be unwavering.
Right.
Or if I'm going to start second guessing myself, or questioning, did I really hear from God? Or, you know, just what doubt looks like, you know, whatever that looks like for you, you know, going back and asking them again because you weren't sure if you heard you the first time, like whatever that looks like for you. So definitely just that challenge of, you have this evidence, you have this substance that you're holding on to, and then that can be challenged. That is likely going to be challenged. And what are you going to do when that happens?
Right. Oh, yes. For me, you know, I'm always prompted to pray or to fast in those moments where I'm like, okay, God, I need you to give me an answer, or okay, God, I need you to give me clarity on something. I'm like, okay, let me go pray. Let me go on a fast, you know, to get myself in check and get my spirit right. So that's typically what I do when my faith is tested. But I think the real test really comes after you get the answer. Because I've had plenty of times where I've prayed and I fasted, and God is like, okay, I told you to do this, why are you doing that? And I think that's when the real test comes, is when you seek wisdom, when you seek God for instruction. And then it's now it's like, okay, you sought the instruction and he gave you an answer, so what are you going to do with that? And I think the application of what it is that you receive from God is what really matters, is what builds you up. Which is kind of going to take me into, I think, a part that we're going to talk about later. But I really think it takes more than just praying and fasting, but actually following the instruction that the Lord gives you. And then also seeking wise counsel is something to do when your faith is tested. Just because somebody may be able to give you different perspective. And something that I've learned often is like, of course you go to God first, but don't think that you can't go to an actual person and seek wisdom about something, because the Lord just very well may speak through them. So again, praying, fasting, and seeking wise counsel is definitely something to do when your faith is tested.
Yeah, I love that. And I was thinking about, like, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and we were talking about the benefits of writing things down. So again, Bible all intertwined. Write the vision, make it plain.
Yeah.
And it talks about, though it may tarry, it is going to come to pass. And so I think that's one of the great and yet simple things we can do is, so you know, beforehand, you fasted, you prayed, you felt like you heard a word from the Lord, or a prophecy was given to you, or just the word of God, the promises that are listed in there that are set forth for us. You're hearing that, you're seeing it, and then you're writing it down. So later, you know, months later, God is telling you you're the first person who's going to go to college in your family. Later, you're about to graduate from high school and you don't have any money, or you haven't, you know, gotten that acceptance letter back yet, or whatever. You're like questioning whether or not you really heard from God. Your faith is being tested. This is a awesome opportunity to go back to your notebook, go back to your journal, and be like, on such and such day, after, you know, praying and fasting, or after church service, or, you know, after I read the word of God, the Lord told me, da 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 da. And you stand on that. You stand on what you heard the Lord say, because he can't lie. So if he said it, then he is going to bring it to pass, even if it's the 11th hour, even if it's, 11:59 and 59 seconds. Like, he is going to do it.
Right.
And so if you fasted and prayed to get that revelation, then you fast and pray to keep the faith, and then you fast and pray if your faith is then tested. Like, it's definitely going to be a continual thing. And when you have wise counsel, like Alleiah was mentioning, they can remind you of those things. Because sometimes if you're like me, you're like, okay, I'm hungry because I've been fasting and fasting and fasting and fasting. My knees hurt because I've been praying and praying and praying and praying. Like, what is wrong? What,
right.
And you can have somebody outside the situation say, nothing is wrong. You're not crazy. Hold on. I'll stand with you. Believe God with you.
Yeah.
That this thing is going to come to pass. And so I think, probably in every live we've done, we've mentioned fasting, praying, and wise counsel.
Oh, yeah.
Because those things are like that 3-cord, that 3-strand cord that cannot be broken.
Yes.
Because you can always go back to them. So again, if you're watching and you have thoughts, if you have comments, we would love to hear from you about how you deal with your faith being tested, and what unwavering faith looks like for you. The other thing we wanted to talk about is, so we all know that we're going to be tested, and we can share a whole bunch of examples of what that looks like. But what does it look like when you're being tested and you don't wait? You don't hold out. You're not patient. You go before the Lord. So I would love to hear what Alleiah has to say. She's having a reaction, so pray.
Because I've been there. And I've had instances that have transpired just over the past 2 or 3 years where I've prayed and I acted in haste and did not wait for God to respond, or I didn't even go ask him, and I just acted on my own. So one example that comes to mind is back in 2017 when I was working at Planet Fitness. I'd been there every bit of 6 months, and I had recently mentioned interest to my manager that I was interested in an assistant manager position, and not really thinking it was going to go anywhere. I was like, I've only been here 6 months. I was just like, yeah, sure. So a few weeks later, again, it happened really quick. A few weeks later, my manager comes to me and he's like, so there's a position open at this club, and I figured I'd come to you, or whatever. He basically offered me the position. I was like, bet, yes, I'm gonna take it. And then right after that, I was like, oh shoot. This was like right after I started coming to New Destiny. And I knew the schedule for the assistant manager position was, and part of it was working Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. And I was like, dang it, how am I gonna get out of this? Like, I already gave them my yes. I don't want to go back on that. And I was just like so conflicted, because when I got offered the position, all I could think about was the more money. And I was in a financial struggle at the time. So I was like, yes, this is it. This is exactly this is definitely God. Like, he totally opened this door. But as time progressed, I was miserable in that position. I just, every Wednesday and Sunday, I dreaded going to work because I'm like, this is not where I want to be. This is not in alignment with where God has called me to be by leading me to New Destiny, and me being so drawn in so quickly. It was like, why would I make a decision to compromise that or to take myself out of that? And so I started the position in like October, I think. And by December, I had quit. So again, after so long, I was just like, I can't. I need Jesus in my life. I was just really, again, on edge. I was so conflicted. I was so like miserable. I would go to work and not even work. I would literally just stand at the desk waiting for the 8 hours to pass by, and I think, to make this relatable, if you don't realize, but I think in the moment, like, my faith was tested when the opportunity was presented to me, and it was like, are you going to choose the higher position and more money, or are you going to turn it down and choose God? And again, I didn't take the time to say, let me think about it. Like, can I let you know tomorrow? I was just so like, gotta do it. So that's just one example for me. Do you have one?
I do. But before I do that, your story made me think about a testing of your faith is not always something negative. So, you know, I don't know the whole backstory, but if Alleiah was praying and like, you know, Lord, I'm believing you for, you know, increase and you know, my borders are gonna be expanded and the wealth of the wicked is sort of like, you know how we pray. So if she's praying that, then this type of opportunity doesn't seem like a test. It seems like a blessing. Like, it seems like, bad. The Lord is coming through. He's giving me this higher position. It's more money. It seems like a good thing. But it interfered with something that was important to her, which was, you know, her church attendance. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, because sometimes I feel like our belief is that a test is only if something bad happens or something negative happens, or, you know what I'm saying, things aren't going the way we thought they should. And then we're like, oh, it's an obvious test. You know what I'm saying? I know what I need to work on. But sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it is something that looks so good. You know, if I could, you know, speak to the single people for a minute. Sometimes that guy, that girl, it's a test. Like, it looks good, it's shiny, and, you know, he can quote a scripture. And you're like, yes. You
should have slowed down.
But it's a test. So, just wanted to throw that out there. So when I think about my life in the many moments, when I have either been impatient or just lack the trust that I should have had in the Lord. I feel like we talk a lot about relationships, so I'm gonna give a work example. So many years ago, the Lord told me to go into business for myself. So I'm a therapist by training. So he told me to go into private practice. And I was like, okay, let me go get a partner. Let me go find somebody else to do this business with me. So my faith was tested because one guy was like, leave your whole job that you get paid faithfully every month with benefits and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, and go out and step out and do your own thing. So it was tested in that way, and then it was tested in the fact that, like, not only was he asking me to step out, but he was also asking me to step out by myself. And that was a really, really scary thing. And so I was like, I believe you, and I need this cushion, this safety net. And so I view that as, you know, impatience and lack of trust. And the Lord completely blew that whole situation up, because he was like, that ain't what I said to. And it didn't get, like, ugly or bad, but it definitely was a lesson to me to be like, when God says, do it this way, that's what he means. You know, and that's part of being patient. Like, you know, if Moses, God gave very clear instructions on what the tabernacle was supposed to look like. And if Moses was like, okay, I mean, that makes sense what you're saying. But I feel like this just need to be just like 1 centimeter this way, or, you know, this needs to be hammered like a little bit. This,
right.
It would have totally ruined the whole thing, because that's not what God said do.
Mm-hmm.
God said do it this very clear way. And I think sometimes when our faith is being tested, that's part of the test, is are we following the instructions, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly unimportant, no matter how big,
right?
Are we following those instructions? And if not, that is the testing of our faith.
Yeah,
that is going to backfire because we are trying to, you know, be impatient and do it our way. So that was it. That was one of my
that just
examples.
That just made me think of the story of, I think it's Samuel, when he they were in battle or something, and the Lord instructed him to like kill everybody.
Oh, he instructed Saul to kill everybody. Yes.
There we go. Yes, it's Saul. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But so he instructed Saul to kill like everybody, like leave. He said kill everybody. But Saul said, but no, I'm going to keep, you know, was it the king or somebody, some of his people.
And the choice animals.
And he was like, no, I'm going to save them. No, I'm going to spare them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just, again, that was a testing of faith. So then, I can't remember the whole story and like what happens next. Excuse me. But
that was when God was like, oh, okay. Because you don't need to be king. Because you can't follow instructions.
So yeah. And then I think, isn't that when Saul got cursed? Because he didn't follow instructions. And then there is the scripture that comes, obedience is better than sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So it's just truly like when we are impatient. I think there's another example that I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up.
Okay. Finish that thought though, because that was good.
Dang it. But yes, when we're impatient and we don't follow his instructions and we don't wait on God, like she said, like the consequences are going to be way worse. We truly will set ourselves up for destruction or for disaster or for pain or whatever it is, because we decided to do it our way, or we decided to follow the instruction but not 100%, thinking that it would just be okay. And I just think that like that's just another example of your faith being tested. Like, do you trust God? Like, do you believe what he says when he tells you? Like, if he says, kill all of these people and I will give you this, what makes you think that he's not going to do it? What makes you think that you have to save these people, you know, and I don't know, like, what the nature of their character was, but what made Saul want to save them? So I think it's even important, too, to be mindful of other people that you are allowing to influence you, because they might say, oh, that, you should be fine. And you're really not.
Right.
Because God gave the order. And if he gave the order, that's like, don't nobody else need to have precedent over that.
That's right.
But I feel like there's another story. Was that the right reference?
This your Holy Ghost, girl. I was flowing with it too. But if you want to think it was something else,
but
give it to her, Jesus. Give it to her.
I feel like there's a story. I feel like maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. That might be the right story.
If y'all feel Alleiah in the Holy Ghost, if y'all feel what she trying to say, comment and let us know what scripture, what Bible story she is referred to.
That might be it. But I feel like there's another story where something similar happened where I feel like I may be referencing two different stories, but hopefully y'all get the picture.
It's all right. It's all right. I like that one. I like that example. I think that was really good because, you know, it is an example of being impatient and the consequences of that. And that's huge. Like, you're king and then you're not. Like, that's a big deal. But even if it's not that, that. You know what I'm saying? You are supposed to be in business for yourself, and then you're not, or you're supposed to be, you know, whatever it is. It's so hard to. Oh, you got it.
I can't. So I think I got it. Okay, wait. I have to focus. So I can't remember their names, but the story was coming back to me. So I feel like so I believe it's in 1 Samuel, and again I may have mixed up two different stories, but it was a moment where God had told somebody. He told somebody, I think, to like. He told somebody to wait, I think, before going into battle or doing something. Mm-hmm. But
that was Saul also.
Okay.
Saul was hard.
Yeah. I feel like I'm cross-referencing two different stories, but it's all the same. Okay, cool. I feel like okay.
So just in case you're curious, the other story is Samuel, via the word of the Lord, told Saul to wait on him so he could sacrifice.
That's it. There we go. Yes, that's it.
And I can't remember, it may have been 7 days, but don't quote me on that part, because, you know, I'm not a Bible scholar. Whatever the case may be, Saul thought Samuel was taking too long. Mm-hmm. So rather than wait,
there we go,
he went ahead and sacrificed. And like right after he did it, Samuel showed up. And he was like, okay, but
I've been waiting.
And he was like, okay, but you couldn't wait 2 more minutes, 2 more hours, 2 more days, whatever it is. Like, wait. I said wait till I get here. I wasn't here, so why are you doing it? It's funny to me that one time he got in trouble for being too anxious.
Right.
And not waiting. And the next time he got in trouble for not killing the sacrifice and the people. And
yeah.
Don't be a Saul.
Don't be a Saul.
Don't be a Saul.
Because he was tormented.
Just FYI.
For the rest of his days.
Right. And Casey commented, she said, this is so good. Why do we, the creation and the clay, think that we get to make minor adjustments to our Creator's original instructions? Go ahead, girl. Right? We sleep.
That's
right. You know, that is so true. Like that, and that's what the Bible says. How can we, the potted or the clay, tell the potter, the creator of the entire universe,
right,
what we ain't gonna do, or what we are gonna do,
right,
or what maybe he made a mistake. We be tripping.
We think we know what's best for us, but we don't, and we have to learn the hard way, and that's just
right.
That's just, we shouldn't have to. We should just obey. Life would be so much easier if we obey.
Do you have an example of when you were obedient and it worked out?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I can't say if it worked out. It worked out. Yeah.
Right.
When you were obedient and it worked out.
Yeah. Jeez, wow. Trying to think. I'm really. This is gonna sound bad. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's not one that comes to mind right now, but honestly, I think, I guess I could say that it just came to me. So in the beginning of the year, I had this nudging to post a video and make a certain comment because I felt that I was ready to share my testimony and put my truth out there. But there was a part of me also that prompted me to ask and seek wise counsel, like, is it okay that I make this comment? Should I do this? Or should I not? And when I sought wise counsel and asked, they was like, yeah, nah, you probably shouldn't say it like that. Don't do it like that. And I was like, dang it. And I was really discouraged because I was like, now I feel like I'm not telling my full truth. I feel like I have to hide, or that I'm like safeguarding or whatever the word is. But I was just like, dang it, I really wanted to just put it out there at that time. But it just wasn't time to do it. So I made the video, I reworded or I rephrased what it is that I wanted to say. And those that I had sought counsel from, they was like, that was so perfect, that was good. So glad that you still went along with it. And it was A-okay. And it was just in that moment I obeyed the instruction not to make the comment, even though I really wanted to. And I was like, but this is my truth. Like, I want to tell it. And I felt like God was telling me to tell it then. But he wasn't. It was just really me wanting to, like, just put it out there. But it just wasn't the right timing. And so, of course, it took the timing for me to really put my truth out there wasn't until 3 months later, when opportunity just presented itself, and it was the perfect timing for me to truly tell my truth. Hence, that's when A Hopeless Romantic came out. And it was just so much gratifying, so much more gratifying in that moment, because I was like, I trusted God. I waited on him because he knew how bad I wanted to tell my truth. He knew how bad I wanted to share my story and to be a light. And I knew that in due time, even though during that 3 months, I was, I felt isolated at times. I felt discouraged. I was on the brink of giving up. Like, my story doesn't matter. Nobody even cares. But the time came, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even really believe that it's here. Like, when the opportunity came, I was like, you sure? Like, I still feel kind of weird about this, but it was the right time. And there was so much peace in doing and telling my truth at that time and moment, because I obeyed and I waited on God to, control the situation, instead of me doing something out of bitterness or out of anger, out of emotion. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to wait on the Lord. And honestly, that just makes me think of Isaiah 40:31, which is like one of my favorite scriptures. And I really, really, really like stand on that. When you wait on the Lord, he will strengthen you. You will rise up on wings as eagles, and you will walk and not faint. Like, just wait on the Lord. So that's mine. I was like, oh God, that one. So
yeah, that was good. I love it. And I feel like, in the same way that we were saying, when you are disobedient and you are impatient and you don't wait, it blows up in your face. When you are obedient and you do wait, like, the continual outcomes are so much greater. And I'm sure, not to tell Alleiah's story or anything, but I think about the fact that months and months and months ago, the book that she just announced today was something that she was like, oh, I need to do it. It was like a struggle and a challenge for her to do. And then after her obedience in this other thing, not only did she get the opportunity to share her truth and write this blog, like, that empowered her to finish this devotional that she had. So it's like, our obedience and our ability to push through that testing of our faith doesn't just bear one fruit. Like, it continues to expound and grow and do more, because God's like, oh, okay, I could trust you with that. Oh, okay, so now I can trust you with this. Oh, okay, now I can trust you with it. Like, it is such a blessing in waiting and being obedient and pushing through those tests and trials of our faith, because we have no clue what's on the other side of our obedience. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. And so if I had to share a story of, like, what it looked like, one example is my journey to St. Louis. So I would have never, for those of you who don't know, I say this all the time because I need y'all to know I'm not from St. Louis. Although St. Louis is now my home, but I'm not from here.
We're great, though.
St. Louis is great. That's why I'm still here. Part of the reason why I'm still here. But, like, What you say?
No.
I would have never, ever, not because St. Louis is bad, but just like I'm from North Carolina, so I'm going to stay relatively close, you know what I'm saying, to family or what I know or just being comfortable. Plus, you know, it gets super cold here and snow and it floods and tornadoes and like all this stuff going on in the Midwest. And y'all don't have seafood. Let me just throw it in there. But it just never would. Would have never woken up one day and been like, I'm gonna move to St. Louis, right? But the Lord knows how to deal with me, and He was like, I said, you know what? I want to do a little something different. I don't really want to work anymore. If I'm being truthful, that's what I told the Lord. I don't really want to have a job anymore. I want to do something different. Long story short, the idea of going back to school to get my PhD came up. I just randomly Googled universities that offer PhD in social work, and Washington University in St. Louis popped up. Now again, I ain't trying to go to St. Louis. So I didn't even click on the link. Like I looked up Florida State, I looked up Arizona State, like I looked up all these other institutions. But every time I Googled WashU, you know, now call it WashU, will pop up. So finally I like click on it. And you know, right. I click on it and I talk to the program manager, and she's super nice and prompt in her responses. And if you know me, customer service is big to me. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I'll apply. And it was, I believe, a testing of my faith. Because like I said, I'm like, I don't want to go to the Midwest. I don't want to go there. And what I told the Lord was, I had a little Gideon moment. I was like, so if this is you, I'll get in.
Yeah.
You know? And I did. And I still was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I say that to say, God knew what was on the other side of that obedience. Because on the other side of that obedience, even after I got in, my plan was to go get my degree, move back to North Carolina. Like, I'm going to see in 4 years in St. Louis, I've been here 12 years. Because God knew on the other side of my patience, on the other side of the testing of my faith, of like, you're going to leave your family and go by yourself. Because I just told y'all I don't like for real doing stuff by myself. Go by yourself. And like, and then it was ... Because I didn't really know what he was going to do. He don't tell me nothing. But little would I have known that on the other side of that obedience would be my awesome 10-year-old son, would be, you know, New Destiny Worship Center, would be my husband. Like, all of those things were on the other side of this testing of my faith, this trying of my faith, this will you be obedient? Will you wait and see what I have for you? Like, if I hadn't done that, if I had said, you know, either not clicked on it or clicked on it and got in and not come, or clicked and got in and came, but then went back to North Carolina, like, it's so many things that I would have missed out on by being impatient or trying to, you know, test God, you know, versus let my faith be tested, test God. So, yeah.
It's really good.
It can be crazy.
Yeah. And like I was saying, he doesn't always give the full story. He'll give you one instruction. And I think that's the testing of your faith. And it takes just repeated obedience for him to give you more, for him to reveal more to you, for him to pour more into you. Because once he sees how trustworthy you are, once he sees how much you can handle, then he's like, all right, let me get rid of this. Let me do this too. Oh yeah, let me. And again, I think it's just important. Sometimes we even overlook like the small things. Like, one thing that I used to struggle with, and that would like literally like stir something up in my spirit was when God, I'd just be walking randomly, like to work or something, and he's like, speak to that person. And I'm like, but that's gonna be weird, or I don't really. Actually, this just reminded me. So, and granted, I don't know what may have come from it, but for months, this was, what is this? This probably was a year ago. I don't know, time has been flying. But when I first started my job, I was catching a bus to work, and I every day would see this woman get on the bus in the morning with her 3 kids, taking them to school. And every day, like, there was just something in me that, like, God was just like, just speak to her, or just give her a card for church. And when I say, it took me, I don't even know how long. It just took me a very long time to just gather up the courage to do it. But when I finally did it, I was like, I feel good. Like, because that was something that God was pressing on me to do for so long. And we think even that those little things that God isn't paying attention to. But every day that I got up and I rode that bus and I didn't say anything, he was probably taking note of that. And he was like, she's not ready. She's not ready. She's not ready. And we have to be willing to take that step to do something like that, to prove to God that we're willing. Because we can say it all day, but once he gives us an instruction and we don't follow it, he's just like, I'm trying to do something in your life, but you keep turning away. You keep allowing fear to overcome you. And it's just like we have to even be obedient in the small things, because they truly add up, and they again prove that's how we build our consistency. That's how we build discipline, when we obey even the small instructions, because we're meant to be lights in this world. And it's not, God isn't always gonna call you to move to a new city or to write a book. He might just have you, call you to go feed the homeless, or to just speak to somebody. Like, it doesn't have to be something extraordinary, but over time he will begin to build on that faith and build on what it is that you are allowing him to do. But if you don't never take that first step, if you don't show your willingness, he's like, I can't use you. And I don't want to be that person, like with the guy who buried his talent. I don't want to be that guy. I want God to know me. I don't want him to be like, I don't know you.
That's so true. It's so crazy, because we started off, as we were prepping for this, talking about faith. And it's so interesting how much obedience is tied to faith. Like, every example of how do you push through this trying of your faith? How do you have unwavering faith? It is so connected to obedience. And like Alleiah was saying, like, obedience in the little things. I was thinking, so often in Christendom, we pray for and ask for and believe God for these huge, big things. I want to preach and teach, and I want to be a missionary, and I want to be on, this stage, and I want to write a book, and I want to be, we say all of those things, and those things are great and wonderful. And, if that is where the Lord is leading you, totally aspire to be those things. However, how are we going to preach to thousands of people in Africa and you can't speak to the lady on the bus? How are we going to, write books and do all of this stuff and we're not faithful in our Bible reading and journaling? How are we going to, do all these grand things and we can't do the foundational things that get us there? And I am preaching to me. Hear me. I am preaching to myself with this, because it starts small. None of us likely are just going to end up in the palace. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be like Joseph. We're going to have some bumps in the roads, and some gutter moments, and some prison moments, and some side of the road moments, and some back. Like, those things are going to happen as we get to the place that God would have us to be. But we're not just going to wake up.
Right.
Likely. Now, God can do anything. But generally speaking, we're not just going to wake up and arrive.
Right.
It is going to be these, you know, what's the saying? The journey of 1,000 something starts with one step. It's a real phrase, Google it. But you know, we gotta take like that one step of obedience in faith, even if it's tested, even if we're afraid, even if we're nervous, even if we're scared, and do it. So for sure. It's just, you know, maybe we needed to hear this. Hopefully y'all are benefiting from this. And I was gonna say one thing unless you have. Okay. So I started off at the beginning of the live talking about when I was reading James 1 is particularly 3 and 6 and trying to like reconcile the trying of your faith versus having unwavering faith. And this is what I wrote down. So you get a peek into my brain. Mm-hmm. So it's not the test or the trying of your faith that causes your patience to grow. So you will have to go back to verse 2 to see that. It is, the test is an external thing. It's the unwavering faith, which is internal, that God will give you the wisdom in the midst of the test that actually is what helps your patience grow. And so when it says in verse 2, you know, count it all joy when these diverse temptations happen, you can count it all joy because you know, based on your unwavering faith, that you have another opportunity to seek God's wisdom to pass that test. You know by faith that he will supply the answer. And you know that if you heed his instructions, that you're going to pass the test.
Right.
So that's why we can count it all joy. And that's how it works patience. All of that trying, all of that obedience, all of that pressing through in the midst of is how you actually get this patience to keep doing what you need to do, because you have persevered through it and you've gotten the answers, and then you actually succeed. So it's like all of that like merges together into one thing, is when you stand on the word of God, when you stand on this unwavering faith of what he has called you to do or said is going to come to pass or whatever, when you're holding on to that and this test and try come, then you're like, now I can count it all joy because I did it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I pushed through. I got an A this time. Yeah. You know, I did it. And then the next time the trying comes, you follow those same internal instructions and you pass that test. And, you know, like Alleiah was saying, you just keep building. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. What did Caitlin say?
She said, y'all are cutting me up.
We look. You got Band-Aids for us too, because the Lord.
We preaching to ourselves. But yeah, I think, you know, to kind of wrap it up, I think that's a beautiful thing when we, again, it's the testing of our faith that helps to develop that patience, so that when the next trial comes, we're like, I already know, like, I got this, because you already know, you've seen God do it before, so you know he's going to do it again. So there's no temptation under the sun that God hasn't given us the strength to get through. So I think when we recognize those moments when we're tested, it's important to like not get overwhelmed, not to overthink it, not to allow yourself to become confused or conflicted, but to go back to God and say, hey, so, you know, this is how I feel, and I trust that you're going to get me through this. You ask for that instruction. You ask for what it is that you are to do. And again, you wait. Because sometimes he'll give you an answer right away, but sometimes he won't. Sometimes his answer is wait. So it's just, again, over time, that builds up your patience, that builds up your trust in him, that you know that in due season, at the right time, that God is going to respond, that God is going to open a door, that God is going to restore, that he's going to heal, that whatever it is that you need in that moment, you can trust that he's going to do it. And you just have to continue to operate in that faith, that unwavering faith, until it happens. And yeah, I think it's just great. Again, it just builds up your endurance, so that way, again, when the trials come, you know, you're able to encourage somebody else, or you're able to, you know, sustain. You're able to testify to somebody that's like, "How are you? Like, what are you doing?" And you just like, "I know my God." So, again, we have to be obedient in the little things in order to build up our faith, to build up our endurance, to get through, because, you know, the Lord said they will come, and He has given us the strength to get through them. So,
So, yes, we have preached ourselves happy.
Yes.
We pray that it has been helpful to you all. We thank you for joining us in your comments. It's so great. And as we've shared before, if there are ever topics or things that you would like us to touch on, DM us. You know, just hit us up and let us know. We are totally open to that. As we get ready to wrap up, because I think we have about 3 or 4 more minutes on Instagram. I just want to, you know, just kind of encourage all of us to know that God has our back. You know what I'm saying? Like, His word is true, and He does have a plan for us. And sometimes it may feel like it's not happening, or it's not happening in the time that we thought it should. Right. But I can promise you that God's timing is perfect. Yes, and if your test of faith is time, I encourage you to not let that be. Just trust Him. He is time. God is time. You know what I'm saying? So He's not checking His watch. He's not looking at the sun and the moon and the stars to figure it out. He is orchestrating it perfectly for you. So I just wanted to share that and just encourage you to be encouraged and to wait on Him. Wait, because it's going to be epic. And so I can't wait to hear the praise reports for that. I would love for Alleiah one more time to shout out her book, her journal, her devotional, whatever term you want to use it, that is out or coming out.
Yes, again, Monet's Truth, which is now available for pre-order. As we were talking through this topic a little towards the end, trust me, I'm not trying to get sales or boast myself or anything, but honestly, this here is a testament to my test of faith. The readings and the excerpts in here, honestly, because I've been through it, because I felt those moments where I was discouraged, when I struggled with being consistent. I've been there and I've been through it, and it's all in here. And I've created this in mind of wanting to help somebody else build their faith, to be more consistent, to be more determined, and again, to be more obedient. And I just think that this is, again, it's such a beautiful guide to building strong, consistent faith. And I would encourage anyone, to tell a friend. If you feel like you're okay, if there's somebody you know that needs encouragement, that needs, a stronger, deeper faith, that's longing for a more meaningful relationship with God, like, this will get them there. And it's just 28 days. You just read one reading a day, and then there's a prompt that'll provoke you to thought and prayer, and there's space for you to write out your own thoughts. But yes, so this is definitely the guide for that. So I'm super excited, and I'm super glad that God trusted me with this, because it's here and it's out, it's available. So
yes, so check out monetstruth.com and aboutfacecollaborative.com. And we thank you for joining us, Kindred Connection. We love you. Bye.